So if you look up this driveway, and Sean, if you'll pan up that driveway, you'll see these mounds on the left. Now, the person who lives in the property here has lived here 30 years, and he never had mounds or anything until about 8 years ago. Someone else moved up the road and built a property up the road, and then they put in this driveway, and they brought this dirt and gravel and all this fill in from another location, we don't know where. And then in about a year, he started seeing little mounds. So this is the typical scenario where this dirt could have came from Maine. Who knows where it actually came from, this fill. But wherever it came from, they were hitchhiking on the trucks to this location. This is a very small mound. This is nothing compared to what we usually have, or what it can be, I should say. I'm not allergic to these. It does hurt a little when you get stung by them, so I don't know if I can get stung by one. Let's see. Yeah. Here we go. Nah, he chickened out. They're not biting me. They like me. Either that or my soap. They don't like my soap. So anyway, that's not too bad. I have been here before and had them bite me on the ankles crawling up my sneakers. Let's keep going. Let's look at the different sizes, the different progressions. Now, last year that mound did not exist, so they built that much in a summer. This mound did exist last year, and it was about this size. It hasn't increased much. But you can see how easy it is to irritate them. Now they're wondering what's going on. Now they're like, oh my God, take a shot of my foot here. You can see they're all going to crawl up, and I will be getting stung here in a few minutes. So I'm going to back out a little bit. I want to not get stung as much as possible. So you see the base here? They're shooting pheromones out. Now look all the way over to the left side of the mounds. They're hyper active right now. So how did that happen? I mean, I only touched this over here. These ants felt the vibration, and they also sent out chemical pheromones to each other that there's an enemy in the area, and they're going to protect their mound. So they're going to come hunting for any movement anywhere in this area. You see, they followed me out here now. I don't know if you can see them here? They followed me out. They picked up my vibrations, and anything that's moving is going to get attacked by them at this point. So this mound is at least 2 years old, and I just got bit for the first time. Here we go. So now they're on me. I'm going to back up a little bit. Again, it doesn't bother me too much. It's about like a mosquito bite for me. But for some people, it's like a wasp bite, or even worse. I mean, they can get infected. They might even need an EpiPen. So be very careful around these. Best to keep moving. We're going to move a little bit more. So there's the tiny ant mound, another ant mound a little bigger. Here was an ant mound that the customer treated last year. And it's pretty much dead, although you can see a few stragglers around the outside here. Let's kick it open a little. Now he was using a combination of granular baits and granular baits with pheromones in them. And I strongly would agree with the second one, the granular baits with pheromones in them. And actually he said within about 3 weeks after using the pheromone bait, that's when he started to see the decline. Now these are on the outside of his property. It's still his property, but it's under his right-of-way. He's not so concerned about them. He's really concerned about the ones that are close to the house. And we're going to go look at those. Oh, here we go. Here's one. So let's see what this one does. Can you get a little closer, Sean? So they have a black abdomen. He's racing. They have a black abdomen, shiny black abdomen, and a reddish thorax. Where did he go? Reddish thorax and head. And I don't know why he's not biting me yet. He's looking for friends, and I'm going to get rid of him. Well, let's keep moving up a little bit more. And we can start to see the mounds progress. Now, these are the older mounds. The mounds start up at a property up there. This was the first initial mound. I've measured this. It's something like 12 feet long and 6 feet wide. Very massive, tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of ants in here. And they're moving kind of calmly right now. I want you to notice how quick they communicate with each other. Because I'm looking at some of these ants now. They have food. And a couple of them are moving some pieces of food around. Sean, can you get in on this one? He's moving a pupa around. See this one? So they're cleaning house. They're moving some of their pupa around. Just before they hatch, they're going to move them to a brood. Now look at the difference in activity here because of my foot. So let's kick this, and let's see what happens over here on the left side. Look over in these leaves now. Can you got that? They are moving like crazy. So the amount, it's almost like they have little walkie-talkies, but they don't. They have pheromones, and they're picking up movements and in the soil and on the surface of the soil. So this would be a great place to bait, and this particular homeowner is not as concerned about the exterior of his property. He's more concerned about the mounds that are near the house, but I personally would try to wipe these out first, outside in kind of approach to pest control. There's not a lot you can do here in the realms of integrated pest management. You know, one of his neighbors said, well, why don't you pick them up with a wheelbarrow and take them somewhere else or burn them? All you're going to do is irritate them. You're not going to get them all at once anyway. You're always going to leave stragglers. And if you pick up a bunch of it in a bunch of these mounds in a wheelbarrow and you take them someplace else and, I don't know, decide what you want to do with them, burn them, whatever it is, they're going to escape. You're always going to, and what you're really going to do there is create a bigger problem. So the important thing to do is not move the mounds around, treat them in place, and be persistent, because they are going to die out if you keep treating them, but it's going to take years, and in mounds this big it's going to take years, and you know, there's going to be sub-colonies everywhere, satellite colonies, so you have to be ever vigilant. Let's move up here. These are two relatively new mounds that have probably come off the main mound. This one was treated last year. I don't know if it's still active. It's barely active. There's like one little, we saw one there. This mound, however, is extremely active. And you walk up to these things and you think, oh my goodness, you know, these ants are here, but really they're all out here too. And they're moving. Look at this. See these eggs? Oh, wow. There's a lot. Those are not eggs. We call them eggs, people generally, but those are pupa. And they're ready to hatch. So I'm not sure what they're doing with them. They're moving them probably to a brooding chamber of some place, and they're going to keep them clean, and then they're going to get ready to hatch. This is the fall. We're in the last week of September here. The temperature's 78 degrees. So this will probably be the last brood of the season, and they're taking them to a safe place. I just love disturbing them personally. They're taking them to a safe place. Now, if I dug deep down in here with a shovel, I'd find different brooding chambers of those pupa. But we're not going to do that. I'm going to leave things be as they are. Let the homeowner continue his baiting program. And let's go over here and look at now the activity that you're seeing on this side of the driveway. Yes, I'm still getting bit. The activity that you're seeing on this side of the driveway was as bad on this side of the driveway near the home last year. But we'll take a look at the focus of the gentleman's treatment was this side, because he has dogs, he has some, you know, children, and himself. Who wants to get bit? Last year there was a regular trail back and forth between those mounds and these mounds that used to be over here. Any given day, you could just come and move this soil and you'd see dozens of ants. But we pretty much segregated them. They seem to be happier over on that side of the road. Notice it's mid-afternoon. It's about 2 o'clock. Take a shot over there again. See where the sun's hitting? The ants aren't foolish. They love the heat. They're building their mounds right where the sun's hitting. And that's why they're over there. They like that. Now we have some sunny spots over here we're going to take a look at. Okay, now you're looking at a dead mound. Last year, this is a mound closer to the homeowner's property. Last year, this mound was just as active as the mounds we saw over there. They were treated with a granular pesticide, and they were also treated with a granular pesticide that happened to also have an insect growth regulator. Now, without kicking this up, I immediately know there's no ants in it. How do I know that? Well, they took the ant sign down. But other than that, look at the grass. Look at the grass and the weeds. Where you have grass and weeds growing, you're not going to have ants. Those other mounds we saw over there were clean. They were like a clear-cut forest. So this is a dead mound. So what he used worked over there. And we'll move down this way a little bit. Last year, thousands of ants in and around this area. 2 big mounds here. They've collapsed on themselves as the ants have fled. That doesn't mean ants won't come back in this area. They still can. There's one forager running around there, but this mound was, you know, this high and that high. And after all the ants were killed, it rained, it snowed, and the dirt just collapses in on itself. The tunnels collapse in on themselves. We'll take a little. Let's take this rock here, and this looks a little newer here, but I don't know. I don't think he has anything. Now you can see the soil is really nice. Some people tell me that in places where they don't have good soil, but they have lots of ants, they move the ants over to the areas that they, you know, off the property, and they let them build these mounds, and this soil is extremely fertile and aerated at that point, and then they just use it. I don't know if that's true. We'll kick this up a little. Again, this mound was this high last year. We have some still shots of it we'll incorporate into this presentation, but there's no ants left here. So it's possible to get rid of them. You have to be very vigilant. When you have mounds like that, you know, the ones we just looked at, can you get a shot of that mound from here? Mm-hmm. You can see it from here. I mean, it's massive. You're not going to put out a couple teaspoons of ant bait to control them. You're going to use, you know, the maximum allowable rate by the label, and you're going to use it several times a year. It's going to be repeated applications, you know, every 3 to 4 weeks, depending on what the label allows, but the more the merrier. And you want to get it when it's hot. You don't want to wait till midsummer when you start saying, oh, there's lots of activity. As soon as you see ants move, whether it's April, May, you know, it breaks that 65, 70 degree temperature. Once you see that happen, you got to start your program right then, because you want to stop these broods. You want to stop these generations every year, because they can have several generations throughout the year. So you want to stop them before they get big and branch out. Let's go over here. We'll look at another dead mound. One of the things we're always careful about in the Northeast, as a side note, is we have ticks everywhere. This is Ulster County, New York, and there are deer ticks everywhere. So I'm constantly doing this even when I'm not looking for ants or ticks. It's just part of, it's ingrained now. So it's a safety tip, you know. Lyme disease is a terrible thing to have, so we do whatever we can to avoid it. Here's a mound from last year, again near the customer's house. Very active last year, collapsed on itself, gone. Grass is growing back on it. So we know the product worked. But it didn't work right away. You can see the remnants of the holes, but it's collapsed. Oh, we have crickets now. There wouldn't be crickets in there if there were ants. So we're getting closer to the house now. And sometimes when you get near a tree like this, you don't see the telltale mound. So you have to really do a good inspection. You have to get in close and go, oh, there's an ant. Because they'll build that, they won't have that classic mound. They'll build their nest through the root structure, and they won't pile up here because there's not a lot of soil and this is a rocky area, but there'll still be lots of ants. Come on over here. There was an ant mound there last year, gone. And I believe we have some more activity down this way. Now, and here are the remnants of one of last year's mounds as well. Are there more ants in there? No. Okay. Now, he's been taking care of them on his turf. And, you know, he's doing an outside-in thing he doesn't want, and it's great. He doesn't want them in the house, stinging people. But they're still going to keep trying to encroach. As you can see right here, this mound is brand new, a couple months old, but he treated it, and it worked. But if you notice, he's only about 50 feet from the house now, so the guy definitely is noticing that they're still trying to encroach from that main road. Here's another mound he treated again from this year. And let's go back and look at another mound that was treated repeatedly last year. And now it's still here. It's not going away. So what is that telling us? Well, first of all, these things are, if nothing else, persistent. This mound and this mound were treated multiple times last year. That mound's dead. This one's not dying. He's going to have to keep hammering it away at it. Now, I can tell you, see, can we get a little closer? Or you got a good shot there? That's a heavy concentration right there. So, see, that didn't hurt. Anyway, we're going to back away from that. Oh, we have some, look at, they have a brood chamber right here near the top. See them moving? These are the pupas. So, there are people that do drench mounds, mound drenches rather. So they take rods and, you know, there are certain pesticides that are labeled. Let's get away from them. There are certain pesticides that are labeled for you to go right in and just drench that mound with a liquid product. And that's going to knock them out. But the hard part is getting them all, even with that. So I'm personally am a proponent of using baits for an environmental impact. And I just think they're not going to spread the colony out so that it, you know, you create a satellite colony. Now this case, when you see all those pupa there, it may make you want to go in and do a drench. But what will happen is if you drench that mound, yep, you're going to kill those ants, and you're likely going to kill those pupa if it penetrates those capsules, the pupal casings at all. But the real problem is this is not the ant mound. This is just the part on the top. These ants are building out underneath in areas you can't see, and you'd have to really drench a lot of this area. And even then, let's face it, some are going to escape. They're going to move on. They're going to, I mean, look how fast they're already moving these. So, baits are probably a better deal in the long run. Short term, a liquid drench is going to definitely give you a quick kill. So if you're in danger, say this is on a kid's schoolyard or someplace, a daycare center where kids are going to get bit, you maybe can't afford the time to eliminate this colony over a summer. So you may come in and just drench it, you know, with the label rate of pesticide and knock it down, then follow up with a baiting program in your state if it's legal. Some states don't allow pesticide applications in daycare facilities or outside daycare facilities or schools. You just have to check your regulations. Thank you. Welcome to another PESTED training program. I'm Kevin Hurley, and we're here today to talk about Allegheny Mound ants. We've been at this site. It's spring of 2018. We're in the Catskill Mountains. It's late May. It's about 80 degrees today. So the ants are really active. They're picking up. Their metabolism is churning. We've been to this site for 3 years now. The homeowner has been using baits, gel baits, granular baits, gel baits, and a combination of granular baits with an active ingredient that's an adulticide plus a pheromone. There's literally millions of ants on this property. They were originally misdiagnosed as fire ants, but as we got further into the program, and we'll show you later, there's a lot of reasons why we know they're not fire ants now. Mainly due to the mound size and how they inflict or inject their venom. So over here, this is a very tiny subcolony. It's just starting to form here, and this is nothing really. This is more typical the size of a fire ant mound. Although it's kind of flat, you can see them becoming very active because I got, oh, they're here, they're over my feet already. All right, let's move up. Now, I'm not sure if the cameraman can get a shot of the left side of the driveway. Those are the original mounds from 7 or 8 years ago before the homeowner decided to do anything. And there, the top mound is about 12 feet wide. We'll go up there and take a look as soon as I get these ants off my feet. Okay. All right, so we'll come on up here. This is, what happened was 7 or 8 years ago, the homeowner built this driveway and they brought the dirt in. These ants didn't, you see, here's a very aggressive little fellow. A dead ant is a good ant. And they brought this dirt in and they must have had the ant mounds with them. And then the ants began to flourish. So we have a little colony over here, a little mound, and then we're getting to where the original mounds were, up in this area. So let's take a look. It's kind of a pyramid-shaped mound, but they do become longer and longer as they grow. Now I want to show you something about ants, especially these ants. They communicate really rapidly with one another. So they pick up on vibrations and they send each other messages through pheromones or chemical messengers, and they're going to let each other know that there's a problem. So I'm going to come over here and stomp a little. So I'm coming over here on the mound. There's a lot of activity on this side. I'm going to break it up a little, let them know I'm here. And you can see here, I don't know if you can the cameraman get in closer? See how upset they are? And over here, in this leaf litter. Are you getting pretty close in on those? Now let's go to the other side of the mound. They're already upset. They're already upset over here, which is about 4 feet away. They're moving really fast. They don't know what's going on. Come on over here and get a shot of this. I mean, you can start to imagine the number of ants that are really in this mound. It's in the hundreds of thousands. And we'll come on over to the brighter light. You might get another shot. Okay? This is why taking a mound like this and just, ooh, coming up fast on my feet. Taking a mound like this, get a shot in there. And if you just drench this mound with a chemical, there is no way you're going to get all those ants. You're going to kill a good majority of them. You might even get 90% of them. I'm not, but what's going to happen is all the ones that are out foraging, you're not going to get. And a lot of these are going to be upset, send that chemical pheromone, run, get away from here, we're under attack. And they're just going to move their colonies and start somewhere else. So I like to use a baiting program where they're their own worst enemy. They feed their brood and they die off from inside. If you come over here to the next size mound, now this mound is in decline. They have been using some baiting programs over here, but you can see on the back side of this mound, it's dying off and grass is growing in. So there has been some, and as we kick this mound open, there's almost no ants in it. Maybe one coming from somewhere on the outside. So this mound is in decline. It was small enough for whatever baiting program they used to take effect. Now we'll come on up here a little further. And here's where the original big mound was. It's also died because some bait was put here over the last 2 years, but the homeowner did not focus on this area. Unfortunately, he's very happy that all the ant colonies on his property, which is only 10 feet away, they're gone. But in his mind, he thinks his problem's gone, but really we know it's not, because 10 feet away, he has this. So this colony was baited for years, not as much though, only every once in a while. He didn't really focus on it. And you can see in the back of this colony, mold and moss are growing on the mound, and that means it's not as active as it once was. It too is starting to die off a little, but it's not going to unless he continues to bait at least through this year. And we'll move up here. Here's a colony that was baited, a mound that was baited, and it's pretty much done. But right next to it, we have a very active one. You can see there's no pyramid top on this. It's dead. So they gave up. But this one has got a nice Allegheny Mound shape. This is the classic shape of an Allegheny, and it's loaded with stinging little ants. Now this particular ant doesn't sting you with a stinger like a fire ant. A fire ant has a stinger on its abdomen, and they'll pierce your skin and cause, depending on how allergic you are, you get little pustules and you could even get infected. And it feels about like a wasp sting. This Allegheny ant looks like it's stinging you because it curls its abdomen in on you, but that's just part of its reaction. What it's actually doing is it's taking venom from its mandibles and it's biting you, and it curls its abdomen in at the same time, so it looks like it's stinging you. A little bit of a difference between the Allegheny and the European imported fire ant, which we have here in the Northeast, and the southern fire ant, which we don't have here in the Northeast, at least yet. So over here where this cars are and where this vegetation is, where there used to be a lot of ants, this is how close the main ant mound is. And let's take a look at the ground here. The fallacy of the homeowner just treating his property. You see these ants? They're going right across the road. So it's just going to be a matter of time before the entire colony is reestablished over there, unless he's very diligent. The best thing would be to come over here and take care of these mounds too. As a pest control operator, that's something you should make the neighbors aware of the properties that you're treating. When you have this type of ant, it's not just, they don't know the boundaries. These ants have never seen the survey map of this guy's property, so they have no idea where to stop foraging. So let's come on in a little bit. We'll look at some of the older mounds over here. Now this mound over here was very small. We caught it in time. I don't think it's active. If you'll notice, it's flat on the top, kind of like a volcano that blows its top off when it loses all its power. So that's really what has happened here. So these, there may be a few lingering around, but for all intents and purposes, this is a dead mound. And you'll see there's nothing in there, okay? So we don't really need to focus on that mound. And we'll come down here. Now, one of the things in the Northeast is you got to watch out for ticks too, or probably most places in the country. But we have the black-legged deer tick here, and it carries Lyme disease and all these other diseases. So I'm always like doing this kind of thing. The white socks help, and they're stylish. All right. So here's a dead mound. Got lots of weeds growing in it. This is a mound last year we showed you. We'll clip back to that when the video's done. This was a very active mound last fall, extremely active. The homeowner used some granular baits, and it's done. But we have foraging ants in here. I just saw a couple. Yeah, here they are. Now these, come here and take a look. No ant gets past me, let me tell you. So this is just some small little pavement ant. These are the pupa. The baits that we put out will kill them as well, but we're not focusing on them. So, you know, they're still here. And you could take those home, put them in a little jar, and you'd have baby ants soon.
Nice.
Everybody needs a pet. Let's move around over to this side. Now we're going to show you, we're going to intersperse some old clips in this video showing you this mound originally from 3 years ago. It was where all this grass is. This was one large mound. And we baited it for a full summer and then the next summer. And as you can see, it's done. Grass is growing back here. It's all fertilized now from ant feces and aerated. Over here, we had another giant ant mound here. It started here and went all the way to here. It's fully collapsed now. You can plant your garden vegetables here or your flowers. It's going to be very nutritious soil. It's really good to grow in. Now this homeowner likes the au natural look, but you could do whatever you wanted in this area once you get rid of the ants. One of the reasons, see, the homeowner let this go for years because the ants weren't bothering him. He didn't really think it was an issue. And then he heard about fire ants and he thought, wow, these might be fire ants and I don't want my dogs to get attacked or me or my family. And then he started finding out that they were coming up in the house because half of his crawl space is filled with sand and gravel. And the ants had built little mounds, which he didn't know underneath that, but they were coming up through the kitchen and he was getting little stings when they got on his hands. So he thought he had fire ants, and that's how we got called in originally. And we originally misdiagnosed it as the European fire ant, which is very rare up here. And then later through checking mound sizes and how the ant was actually injecting us, and we found out that these are the Allegheny Mound ants. So let's come over this way. And this is probably you've seen this shot several times, but I wanted to show you again. Now 2016, 2017, and 2018, there's no ants here anymore. So I haven't seen any real research on this, but my belief is after looking at all these dead mounds and the new mounds, they don't appear to want to come back to that same area once they've been wiped out. And I don't know if that's a scientific fact or just a unique situation that we're encountering here, but it doesn't look like they're going to keep reinfesting the same area. They move on or they die off. So we'll come along this way. Now, this was always a very active area where these bricks are, and you can see these little ants moving, but these are not Allegheny Mounds ants. These are just little pavement ants moving around, like right here. And they don't bother the homeowner, so the homeowner just leaves them and lets nature take its course. This tree, however, was very infested for years with the Allegheny Mound ant. And let's see if it still is. No. We have a dead cricket in there, or ground beetle. The ants are living off it, eating it. Some little pavement ants in here. They love to eat other insects. And we'll come over here. I'm just looking right now, kind of doing a follow-up to see if the ants, make sure they can't come back onto this guy's property. If they do, I'm going to alert him and let him know. So these are all, where you see this dirt in here, these are all old ant mounds were in there at some point, as well as, watch out for these sticks, as well as this area. But you can see again, it's collapsed. So there's no more Allegheny Mound ants. He did a very thorough job. He didn't just treat the mounds. You know, the guy read the label. There's a couple different products you can use for these mound building ants, and we'll go over them. But he treated all around these walkways and these little ledges, and that's where the ants are running all day, so they're more likely to interact with the bait. You want to get as much interaction as possible. So just treating the mound is not going to give you the full interaction, and it's going to take a lot longer to control the pest. So what we want to do is find the runways where they're going to forage. And they love areas like this because there's a lot of other insects here. And these ants will eat other animals. Now this person just lets nature take its course. Here in the Catskill Mountains we have a lot of ferns, we have a lot of moss. Grass has a tough time. You really have to go out of your way to just grow pure grass. You have to bring in dirt and all that. So we had another mound over here. The totally flat now, inactive, maybe a couple foragers. Here's a forager. That's not an Allegheny Mound ant though. So nothing really happened, and they're in good shape. And we used to have one other spot over here. Just a side note, you know, watch out for carpenter ants. All pest control operators know firewood and carpenter ants love each other. So he keeps it not stored near the house. The house is about 40, 50 feet away, which is a good idea in case one summer carpenter ants decide they want to build a nest. And this is the last spot on the property where there was an Allegheny Mound ant. You can still see a couple foraging around, but there's no mound here, so we don't really know where these are coming from. For all we know, they could be coming from those mounds across the road. So it would be a good idea to continue to use a baiting program at this point.
Nice. Ow! Nice. Good job.
Thank you.